You might be turning your players into murder hobos. A murder hobo is the term for a character who wanders your world, doesn't care about the places or NPCs they visit, and simply kill and loot indiscriminately. They are a marauding force that destroy TTRPG campaigns. Obviously, there are just some players who suck. They are going to be murder hobos no matter what you do or don't do. These players you really have to move on from and cut your losses. But sometimes a player or an entire group falls into becoming murder hobos because of things you're doing. Let's say you're running a game for some players. They get a quest to investigate a mysterious disappearance. As part of their investigation, they interview an NPC that knows what happened, but is working with the force behind these disappearances. In this situation, we have the opportunity to do two things that turn players into murder hobos. Those things are giving no incentives for good behavior and incentivizing murder hobo behavior. Let's say your players are attempting to peacefully get information out of this NPC, but nothing they do works. Eventually, your party threatens the NPC, fights them, and beats the information out of them. Your players have just learned that they should have just attacked the NPC and not tried to talk. This is reinforcing a murder hobo tendency. I hear you in the comments saying, well, the NPC would have never talked anyway. No peaceful amount of talking would have resolved this situation. Blah, blah, blah. Sure, if this is the only time this happens, then maybe you're right. But when situation after situation pops up where violence would have just solved the problem immediately, or engaging with your world yields no benefit, players start to catch on. You have to reward the habits you want to see. There's no other way around this, unfortunately. Especially for new players, you have to tangibly reward non-murder hobo behavior. I don't care if it doesn't make as much sense in the context of your world. You have to reinforce good behavior and traits you want to see in your games as a game master. If you want more roleplay, reward players who use roleplay to solve problems. If you want your party to stop robbing stores, reward them with discounted items and rumors of even better ones when they successfully make a purchase. Players in TTRPGs follow rewards and incentives. They're kind of like mice in a maze. They will run through whichever route gets them to the cheese the fastest. If they get the cheese by murdering your entire world, that's better than spending hours roleplaying for relatively little benefit. It's a well-documented fact, players will optimize the fun out of their games. So part of your job as a game master is making the most optimal path the most fun path, and by extension, the path that leads the party away from being murder hobos. If you're creating situations where the best solution in the minds of your players is to go full murder hobo, you gotta switch up what you're incentivizing. This problem is compounded if what you think your players want isn't what they actually want. Maybe you think your group cares about resolving plot hooks from their backstory, but in actuality, they're at your table to fight monsters and get loot. It's a common occurrence. And if fighting monsters and getting loot is what's driving them, then dangling backstory rewards will have zero sway with your party. You can essentially train the murder hobo tendencies out of them by providing your players with more opportunities to get items and fight monsters when they engage with your world. I firmly believe most murder hobos are made, not born. Given the right conditions and incentives in any TTRPG campaign, a great player can turn into a murder hobo. But that also means, on the flip side, that there is a high chance that you can turn most murder hobos into great players. I know because I've done it. There are so many players over the years that have sat down at my gaming table as murder hobos. For many reasons, players can just acquire murder hobo tendencies before they come and sit down at your table. But that doesn't mean you should give up on them, far from it. Murder hobos can turn into some of the best players because, underneath it all, they care. And I think that's something that a lot of these discussions miss. Murder hobos, if they didn't care, would just sit around and be apathetic. But because they're trying to have fun, or get things done, or interact with the game, it shows that they at least have interest. And if they keep coming back to your game, it's because they find at least something there fun. I can't help an apathetic player, but I can help a great player who's acquired some murder hobo tendencies. So by sitting down with a player and identifying what they have fun doing, it becomes far easier to break those tendencies. And at the end of the day, for 80 to 90% of the murder hobos, I think the onus falls upon me and other game masters to get them away from those bad habits. I think 80 to 90% of murder hobos can be helped with the right incentives being implemented at gaming tables. It comes down to those two things, making being a murder hobo the worst option, combined with incentivizing the type of gameplay that you want to see at your table. You can't just punish a murder hobo and not give them any guidance. I think that's borderline cruel behavior, because if they don't see a better, more efficient way to act, they're not gonna change. So watch what you're incentivizing in your TTRPG games. Are you inadvertently creating murder hobos? And are you running a game that could rehabilitate one? Maybe you just need to provide more opportunities to get the cool items that the player wants. Now, what if those items are making it so your players are doing a little bit too much damage? Well, check out this video right here. It will help you resolve any issues you have with players dealing too much damage. And thank you for entering the dungeon.